Today I'm joined by Adam Garland from sessionhair.com. Thank you so much for joining me, Adam.
Thank you. All of a sudden get a rush of anxiety. I know we've just had a quick chat and you made me feel extremely comfortable. But I'm really connected to how I feel. So I'm just gonna kick it off with that. I'm like quite anxious now. But I'm in.
Well, I don't love that. I love your honesty. I don't love that you're anxious, but I love your honesty. But Adam, where are you based? Can you let everyone know where you are right now?
Yeah, I'm in my dad's garage.
I love it.
And I am in Somerset in the UK.
Excellent.
And I'm going to keep this really real. And I'm back where I started, actually. I'm back in my hometown.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're in the UK, in the southwest.
In the UK. Amazing. But you are a hairdresser and a session hairdresser, and you've done a lot of hair. But where did it all begin for you? How did you become a hairdresser?
A couple of miles down the road.
Yeah.
I fell into hairdressing when I was 14. I was having my hair cut and I was like, I used to go to a salon, not a barber's. And I was just like, oh, I want to do this. And long story short, I went from little village salon, working for Tony and Guy in Bristol, working for Tony and Guy in London, and then went to Vidal Sassoon and did all my education with Vidal Sassoon, and then worked in a few salons, but then became freelance quite quickly and did that for quite a while. Did something else. I used to actually ride horses professionally. I used to show jump.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So that was sort of a I'd always ridden horses, so that came in. And then life changed and I was sitting watching Britain and Ireland's Next Top Model on my friend's sofa. I think I was 29. So what are we? That's 15 years ago. And I was like, I want to do that. And they were in Dubai. I had been to Dubai, but they were in Dubai and they were doing really awful hair on Top Model. And I thought, I want to do that, but I know that I'm already doing that better, but I don't know what that is. I had no idea that was called session or editorial. I just thought, I want to do that. So I found a website called modelmayhem.com. I don't know if that still exists.
I know Model Mayhem, but I don't know if it still exists. Yeah, I do know Model Mayhem. So hold on, what year would this have been? So was this about like
late
2000?
of my late 20s. So I can't do maths that fast, but
was it like 2011,
2028, 2008, between 2008 and 2010, I started doing what I'd call session work, but via Model Mayhem.
Yeah, no, it sort of sounds quite parallel with me in a way, because I feel like I was like, I want to work on photo shoots around that time. I think it was around, I moved back to Australia in 2007. I'd been living in London and I moved back to Australia, to Melbourne. I live in Sydney now. And I was like, I want to work on photo shoots. So how do you do it?
Yeah, how do you do it?
And I think I came across this Model Mayhem at around the same time as you. Anyway, I've just interrupted. You keep going.
No. I mean, you'll know probably then that was a very interesting experience working on there. And I mean, one of the most iconic shoots was me arriving with two girls on a bed in latex cat suits, telling me they're about to jump in a bath full of milk naked. And I'm there really professional with my, yes, okay, so and I was like, oh my God, I look back and I think, yeah, I mean, I don't know what that site's like now. I'm not going to endorse that site and I'm not going to say don't go near it. Just if you want to go and have a look, it was my beginning. So I did, in all fairness, I did a lot of what we call testing before I even knew it was testing.
Yeah.
I was doing the photo, the makeup. I was doing it all.
Yeah.
And I don't know, now I'm talking about it, you're taking me back there. That was really bloody fun, you know?
Yeah.
And I've been in this place recently, and you'll have to pull me back in if I go off piste. And I've been in this little place. I think one of my last posts was, how many Vogue covers do I need before I'm credible? How many celebrities, should I have done the Met? What happens if I've only done the Oscars and I've not done the Met? Does that mean I'm qualified to say, well, this is Met? I've been doing a lot of that kind of self-sabotage, that little demon talking. And then you hear icons like Pat McGrath in makeup, Guido, Eugene Souleiman. They all talk about that 90s era where they were testing and they were playing and it was free. And now you've just literally taken me back to my version of that.
Yeah.
And I'm not comparing myself to them. I'm just connecting. Instead of feeling different and an outsider, I'm going, yeah, okay, I experimented and I played. And I think even now this conversation is actually inspiring me. Hopefully, I did something really bad. I think I lost my hard drive, all my work
Oh,
from before 2023.
check Facebook. Did you post it on Facebook?
So I'll be able to scrape some
Yeah.
things up. But it's just a reminder that I have done that thing. If I'm going to tell myself, oh, but you didn't do that 90s kind of thing. Well, no, of course I didn't, because I wasn't doing it. You can't do that. That would be trying to step into someone else's shoes. And it's looking for a difference. If I'm looking for a similarity, yeah, I did some really weird, crazy, wacky stuff. I was doing makeup at one point. Never going to be booked for makeup, right? But so my point is, I was experimenting, and I'm really grateful that you've led me into this, because I've learned something there again today.
Well, it's kind of good because you've actually reminded me that I experimented and I wasn't looking at Instagram, or I wasn't looking at what everyone else was doing. I was doing what I wanted to do, which is kind of where I'm finding myself going back to now, finding
That's brilliant.
my own thing that I want to do. But I want to mention, because I should have mentioned this at the beginning, I found Adam on Instagram. He has got the most amazing Instagram page. What's your Instagram handle, Adam?
Adam Garland __, because somebody else has got my name. God damn it!
Dare they? How dare they?
They?
You need to go and look at Adam's Instagram page. I saw your reels. I binged them. I followed them, but then I think I sent you a voice message saying, I want to have you on my podcast. I need to have you on my podcast. And that was a few months ago, and here we are. So thank you for all of the content that you put out, because everything you say, I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's me. Oh my gosh, that's me. Like, just so much of it, so much of the industry that's unspoken. And I just find you articulate it so well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so you went and you did your testing. When do you think maybe you started to get some traction or momentum? Like,
That's a good word, momentum. Someone that I lived with, makeup artist, she was like, you really do have momentum. You just also need to take your time. And I was like, well, what's going on? I'm like really passionate. I'm really driven, blah, blah. And I realized that I also have obsession, and that is also not a swear word. And so from the get-go, even in those early days of testing, oh my God, life is so weird. I was even thinking about this probably last night. I was thinking about how I've always, in my opinion, had an eye for taste or visual or image. And I remember those early tests, and always, the hair was also probably shocking. But I always remember thinking, there's something not right, but I always knew there was somewhere to get. Does that make sense? So it's like, and I couldn't at that point reference a Vogue, but something in me knew that world of fashion, image making, art, because it's not just fashion images that I love. I love, like, when Helmut Newton will take a picture just of a wrist with a watch and a bumblebee, something really obscure. So it's like, I feel like that has always been in me, and I don't know where that came from, because I didn't get brought up in a family that talked about culture, history. The most I can remember from my childhood is my mum listening to Tina Turner while putting the rollers in her hair. But I'd be a fraud if I sat here and said, yeah, I used to love mum getting, those stories that you hear a lot of people say, valid, I'm sure. That isn't my journey. And I know a lot of people don't have that opportunity. They maybe have difficult parents' upbringing. And that's something that you shouldn't be ashamed of. It doesn't mean you can't be cultured, and it doesn't mean you can't learn that. And it doesn't mean that if you're already an artist, for whatever the essence, wherever that came from, that's there. So I think that was always there. And that momentum and that feeling of, I want the picture to look like something else.
yeah.
That drove me to just keep testing, keep looking. And then I think I remember getting my first credit, my name in on an online thing. Can't remember what it was called. And it was actually really good. And I worked with, I can't ever pronounce his surname correct, Oliver Valakskan. He was Katie Grand's first assistant for a long time, and he's an amazing stylist in his own right now. And I worked with him, and he had like just Rain Max over lingerie, and I did cool hair. And I remember thinking, oh, okay, that's kind of really cool as well. Like, and I remember those little moments, and I remember shooting with another photographer, and I didn't know styling skills, so I hadn't assisted yet, I was just doing the tests. And
Mm.
I didn't know how to make hair big, and certainly not like any of the powerhouses like Luigi or any of these people. But again, I knew that's where I wanted to go. And I remember doing a girl's hair once, and I just backcombed it to its existence and brushed it. And it did that. And I remember that picture. And so looking back and now talking about it, actually, I remember that picture. And I remember thinking to myself, this is a milestone then. And now 10 or more years later, looking back, I can actually go, yeah, do you know, that was a milestone picture. That was when I started to think, oh, okay, but still with no idea what to do, anything. Like I had no idea about assisting.
Yeah.
Just no idea.
Yeah, you sound like me. You just don't know what you don't know. So were you working as a hairdresser at that point?
I was possibly just flitting around. Oh, no, sorry, that's completely bullshit. I was working in the Philippines. Yes, I was. I was working in the Philippines, and I was the art director for Tony & Guy Essentials. I was there for about 6 months, and then I moved to Holland, and I was working for Tony & Guy Rotterdam, and I was the art director for the salon there. And that was my last kind of salon stint in about
Okay.
2012. And at the time, that's when I was combining doing all these tests and just doing everything, but not assisting.
So when you say assisting, do you mean assisting on like fashion shows, or do you mean assisting on photo shoots, or both?
So I knew nothing about what assisting was.
Okay.
I knew nothing. I didn't know that that existed. And I actually came back to London from Holland, and I wrote out all these. I somehow must have found out about what agencies were. And I remember writing these emails thinking I was going to get signed to Streeters or Art and Commerce. That moment, I was like, God, they're going to see these images I've done on Model Mayhem and they're going to sign me. And I really hope I can find those emails, because it would be so cool. I would probably even get them printed off, because it's like, it's so cringe, but it's also so genuine. And I think a lot of people do that. From what I hear when I'm talking to my mentees and with my old team, you don't know how to connect with these people. So in a way, you think you've got to upsell yourself, or if you just don't know, you're going in blind. So obviously I got no responses. And I think what happened was a makeup artist called Mona Leanne, who is an incredible makeup artist, and she was establishing herself. We did a job together, probably through Model Mayhem, and she told me about assisting, and she gave me some advice, and it was definitely her that helped my career then start to take its next step to emailing the agencies, asking about being an assistant, asking about Fashion Week. And then all of a sudden, I'm backstage at Chanel with Karl Lagerfeld doing Kendall Jenner's hair for Sam McKnight. Not my own show, not my own client. It was with Sam McKnight as an assistant. But it did happen very quickly. I went from not really assisting to being in that environment. And for me, that was quite overwhelming. And I think if anyone says, oh, I'm not bothered about that, I can't deny that you might not be, but I think a lot of people, it's walking into an environment that you've never been in, whether you're bothered about celebrities or not. Just walking into the Grand Palais in Paris or the Opera House, it creates a feeling, and it should feel. You should feel something.
Yeah. And this is in a time before there was, like, we see so much more now what happens backstage, and I feel like we know so much more. Do you know what I mean? And this would have been in a time there wasn't a lot of social media around it.
We actually there was banned from doing social media. So it was before Sam had Hair by Sam McKnight. We were allowed to post something that he posted. There was, a little bit like how we're finding our feet with AI now, because I think there's some great things, and I think there's some things that I'm seeing that I'm like, ooh. It was a little bit like that with social media culture at that time. It was like, people were a bit afraid of it. I remember Pat McGrath would be hiding all of her stuff, so putting her products into unmarked containers so no one could see. And then she flips that and has $1 billion business, So I think that point, everyone was either being smart, protecting their own brand, but they weren't as familiar with social media as we are today.
Yeah, no, for sure. So you found yourself backstage doing Kendall's hair and very overwhelmed, yeah?
Yeah, very overwhelmed. And I was assisting Sam's first assistant, Declan Shields, and we did it together. And those moments are important for me, as I don't want to say it is a bit of validation. It's a bit of validation and trust from you know, at the end of the day, they're just people, but they are, even though it was early on in the Hadids and the Jenners, and they're still attached to that. And it was overwhelming. It was exciting. You know, lots of people will say, "Oh, it's just work. It happens all the time," and absolutely, that's where I got to. But as a young guy from a small town with a lot of ego, and you can see all the other assistants looking and they're asking, and so if they're like, yeah, I just think a lot of people don't talk about the feelings, don't talk about the emotions, maybe bottle it up, and then end up potentially using substances or drinking like I did for a long time, or it comes out sideways. I'm not saying that happens to everybody, but I firmly believe, like, you take someone out of a small town, a small, you know, because not everyone comes from London, New York, Milan, or Paris. You take these small seaside town village people and throw them into that environment, you're gonna feel something. So and I share that because I'd like to prepare people that, like, you can literally turn around 1 minute and Madonna will be stood there. And it's just like pre-programming. It's just like having an awareness not to like melt or, you know, just enjoy it. Don't jump on it. You'll probably get decked by security, but
yeah. I'm from an incredibly small town as well. I'm from a town of like 900 people in far north Queensland. So yes, I can completely relate to something like that. Not that I found myself, you know, in a room with Kendall Jenner, but I can definitely relate to that. Did you ever feel like, this is something that took me a long time to overcome, was feeling that because I was from a small town, I just didn't have I don't know, didn't have something that would let me do all these cool things or be successful? Did you have any of those kind of thoughts, if that's any way of explaining it?
not on a conscious level, but I've just been working with my therapist on what I see as like, and what we believe as epigenetics, and like the identity that you're cellularly born with, your like the trauma, the history that lives in your DNA. And so on a conscious level, I could wear a mask in those early times of being like, ha ha ha, I'm here. But then I tap back to like what I was just saying, and that being overwhelmed, that's in my cellular mapping. And that is that old identity of not being good enough, imposter syndrome, why am I here, and those kind of things, which I didn't even know what imposter syndrome meant back then. And so I hadn't done any work on myself or looked at those things. So absolutely, I think on a conscious level, I was wearing a mask and a persona of like, hey, but inside my body was going, no, we need to make you safe. We need to take you out of this. Because I didn't understand that you do deserve to be there. You are always, you were born enough. We were always born enough. It's everything outside that impacts how you feel about yourself.
Yeah, I suppose it
influence that. Yeah,
I suppose when I'm going to really think about what I just said to you later, because it's definitely something that, I don't know, I feel like it held me back for a very long time, thinking I was this small town person and not, I don't know, maybe not, I don't know, maybe it was not worthy of something. But anyway, moving on to, how long did you go on to assist for? Like, what other experiences did you have assisting artists?
amazing experiences. And assisting was for me one part and a very valuable part of my career. And one thing I wouldn't want anyone to misinterpret in my post, and I think it's clear, it's like, I'm not saying don't assist. In fact, I'm saying if you can assist now, please do. But I'm also sort of saying that there are lots of pros and cons. So we can maybe look at what I feel are a couple of the not so lovely things and then some of the great things. And there's been a whole topic about working for free and doing that first job to get through the door. And I challenge that. And I challenge that everywhere, because I feel like you wouldn't ask a solicitor to that day one, you've got to come in and could you just go and like store those files for me so I can see how you are at storing those files. So I'm not saying that I have the answer either, because I definitely think there should be more of a regulated tier system of pay. So someone who's been there for 10 years and still chooses to be an assistant definitely deserves to be paid accordingly for that. So I think it doesn't just go from no work, no pay for the entry level, but it also goes all the way up through. You should be paid more if you've been a respected part of that team. But with regards to the no pay and getting your foot in the door, I feel like as long as it's like 50 quid, 40 quid, whatever, so that person can come to work and not have paid their travel expenses and can go home and get a meal. I feel like that should be a base level for anybody going to work, whether they're learning. You can't learn everything in one sitting. So people that say, oh, but it's like going to free university. No, it's like going to university for one day. It's not a free university, right? And not everybody will have that experience on day one, or the knowledge to be able to deal with that. So what I mean by that is, if you have a really shitty day on day one, you might actually be traumatized. So you've not been paid, you've potentially been traumatized, and then you're like, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. But actually, you're really passionate and creative inside. So my advice is there will always be up and down days. And where I got to a point was, once I understood that I wanted to do this job, I understood that the down days, or what I perceived as less interesting days. I'll use an example of, like, if it's just going to be natural hair and they literally just spray the hair with water and they tuck it behind the ear, and all you're doing is holding a set bag all day, and you're thinking, okay, I'm getting a couple £100, but what the fuck am I doing here? I should be with that artist that's doing wigs all day, because this is what I used to think. But then I rethought that and I thought, no, actually, I think that I got this advice probably from an artist, I can't remember who, but they were like, watch how I engage with the client. Watch how the photographer engages with the model. Watch how the digitech will turn the screen away from the client at the right time. Watch, you will, like, now you are able to be a sponge and absorb an environment that you won't be in again. And that is what I did from really early on. And I think that's why I have a broad knowledge of image making and the whole setup of what I've seen from my experience. So that you get to see that the artist doesn't always have to do much, but we can be fluffing around in the trailer for like an hour just to literally spray the hair and tuck it, because that artist is probably getting paid thousands of pounds. So we need to make it look, so you're learning something there. You're learning the psychology of how to work with a client.
Yeah.
Amazing experiences have been just getting to travel, getting to stay in, like, when you do some big clients, you get to stay in some of the most amazing hotels, even though sometimes you will get in there at 3 a.m. and you'll be out at 6 and you won't even get the breakfast. And I'm like, damn, I wanted to try that breakfast. But you'll get to be in environments and countries. You can quite quickly be traveling if you're with the right artists. You'll be traveling. You get to see things like, go back to the Kendall Jenner, Karl Lagerfeld. It was an amazing experience to be in Paris and to be at the Grand Palais and to be able to walk through security. For me, I wasn't present enough. And I think I've shared that a little bit. I had issues with regards to the imposter syndrome and childhood things, which I've worked on now. And it's, again, why I share that is to just remind people, like, yeah, this is great. You should be enjoying the moment. Yes, it's work, but you should be able to go, fuck, I'm stood here. Wow, this is incredible. So there are lots of incredible environments and settings to be in. And there are lots of good people in the industry. There are lots of really kind people in the industry. And Anthony Turner is an incredible example of a person who is, like, in my opinion, at the top of the industry, yet can still send a very heartfelt DM as he's on the way to do one of the biggest shows of his life. And, that's integrity at a different level. And I mean, who am I for him to connect with? Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's just beautiful. And so there are many, many people like that, but there are also some dragons.
Yeah, I think that's life, isn't it, right?
And it's life, yeah.
Yeah, but yes. So how long did you go on to assist for?
I think my journey is really interesting because I assisted. Oh, well, I did my own stuff, began assisting, then became a really lousy assistant because I was getting so many opportunities to do my own thing that I thought was amazing. I would let the artists down because I didn't know what an option was. I didn't know what a confirm or release was. So they'd say, are you available? And I'd say, yeah, let's check in closer to the time. And then they'd say, well, is that an option? And I'd be like, yeah. And then I'd be like, oh, I can't do that now because and they'd be like, but you gave me an option. And I'd be like, I don't understand what that even means. And there will be a whole video on sessionhair.com just about options, on multiple videos talking about that. But that was something that was like, if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah. What is an option? Does it mean you're confirmed?
Yeah, and if you don't, even that language, and then in in film and TV, they call it a pencil, and I'd never heard of a pencil. And I was like, what's that? And, and like a hard out means you've got to be out at that time. Otherwise, you're going to go into overtime and you're going to cost the budget. All these things, you just don't know the language. And it's such a simple little word. But if you go, oh, yeah, hard out. And what time do we stay on till? It's like, no, we're hard out. And you've not started in the kit, for example. So I assisted and sort of learned a lot of that stuff on the hop, and was kind of a bit of an unreliable assistant. Made a lot of bad choices through my addictions, through choosing my own career, and just being kind of quite scattered. But one thing that I think I've always had is kindness and authenticity, although I hate that word because I just think it gets thrown around. It's such a buzzword, and it's like, what does authenticity really mean? If you're creating But once I found my confidence, started to believe in myself a little bit more, and I started my recovery journey in about 2018, maybe 10 years ago. Yeah. So I started looking at myself. It took a long time. But I started to have integrity, and I was like, I'm not going to let anyone down. And then I tried to get back into assisting, and I caused a lot of chaos. I'd caused a lot of damage. I was known as that unreliable person, and rightly so. And so I slowly got back in, and some artists gave me opportunities. Sam McKnight's team always stood by me for like 5 years, not just on a professional level, but there are people within Sam's team that kind of probably knew what was going on and would have check on me, because it wasn't always that I was high, because I didn't use all the time. It would be the psychosis or the come down or those kind of things, or like my using was maybe a couple of times a month, but the repercussions were huge.
Okay.
So like anxiety about getting on a plane and thinking like, well, I didn't use for 2 weeks, but why am I still anxious about getting on a plane, for example, those kind of things. But Sam's team, Sam's agent, and I guess Sam himself was very understanding.
Okay.
And were able to support me. So I kept assisting, and then I was doing a lot of my own thing that I would say would be a next level. But I then got really smart, and I thought, do you know what? I'm going to go back and assist while I'm an artist, because I wasn't signed at an agency. And I'm going to be really honest here. I was getting juicy call sheets with all the contacts, with all the production agencies. And all right, they're not all going to book me, but some of them did. So, that's how I got some of my amazing opportunities. And I'm not saying that you assist on day one, get the call sheet and go hitting up the production companies. But I got to that point where my work definitely represented that. And I booked some nice work doing that. I did a little bit of production for an artist, which I kind of quite enjoyed as well. So I was like a backstage producer for about 5 or 6 shows.
Okay.
And I never put assisting as high as a priority as I think I would have liked to. If I could wave a magic wand, I would have flat out assisted, and I wouldn't have done my own thing. At that time, I was just too scattered. I couldn't focus on one thing. I'd be like, right, I want to do my own, I want to do that. And I think you learn so much assisting, but you also need to know when to stop.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Any advice there on when to stop?
Well, when should you stop assisting? I mean, I definitely, even if you're assisting, like I just said, flat out, I still think you have to give yourself space to test yourself. And I mean, I think I'll come back to what you said, but I think that leads me into like something else, which I think is really important, especially as we move into the world of AI. We move in the abundance of artists, the luxury of social media and the luxury of the internet means we can all connect, but it also means that we all think we're going to be the next superstar. And you absolutely can become a superstar, but you absolutely need to hone in on what it is that you want to be a superstar for, and be able to accept that you might not have the answer for that, which sounds so contradictory. So what I mean by that would be, if you want to work at Art and Commerce, or you want to be an art partner, which in my opinion are the top fashion agencies in the world, then you've got to do it via a route. You either need to become so visibly loud, and I don't mean all singing and dancing, I mean look at someone like Mustafa Yanaz, who his work, you just can't not look at his work and feel something, or you can be like, he went really far with that. I don't like, but you still got a reaction. I mean, I personally love all of his work. I think he's a genius. So the fact I just got passionate and was able to do that shows what he's about. Anna Takahashi in makeup. I don't fully know her story, but I don't believe she really assisted much.
Mm-hmm.
I know that she created pictures that are all over Pinterest. She created images that have been viral. And then she gets signed to one of the biggest agencies, in my opinion, Art Partner.
Mm-hmm.
And she did that again, creating her own visual language. She was an artist. And many others, Joey George at Streeters, he, I believe, worked with Julian Deese. Don't know that for sure, but I've worked for Joey a few times. And you can see Julian Deese is an artist in the way he's created. And Joey found his own way of interpreting that, was inspired by that, and then went on to do that. So I think, fast forward to what I just said about AI, which is going to be doing whatever it's going to be doing. And we don't have to do anything, but my thing is accept and find a way. Saying AI slot just says to me that you're scared. That may be controversial, but I'm not scared of anything. I'm not going to hold myself back in a time period. I would love to do hair in the 90s, to take drugs for as long as I physically can, and then go, actually, I'm going to go to rehab and become a new character, then live out the noughties and be Y2K, then I'd love to create. It ain't gonna happen, right? And I feel like that is like what people are holding on to, the past, the nostalgia, and like equally I understand. I've looked at how AI works and the way it scrapes the images and what it does. I don't agree with that either. I'm not saying yeah that's great, but let's have the conversations to find a way. Instead of just going AI slop, let's go, right, who do we set up something in order to start the conversations, to have a federation to protect us?
Okay. Yeah.
Because we're not going to stop it. Like, you can't turn off the internet.
Some campaigns. Yeah.
That's what I was saying, right? Yes. Now you have an opportunity to really stand out. Possibly why I connected with you, why what I'm doing stood out, because there's so much noise. I am bored of editorial. The majority of editorial I see on Instagram, I am bored of seeing the same look or a different look for a magazine. And it's just like, get the advertisers in, get that shot. The photographer's stressed. They say you can do makeup, and then you get there and they're like, but we really need to pull that back. Or, I did a braid once, and the stylist was like, it needs to be like that much smaller. And I literally told her to do one. I probably said a lot more than that. I was like, I haven't come here today. I understand the nuance, the detail, but when you equally understand that the magazine you're shooting for, the photographer's photography, I'm like, babe, where are you flexing that dick from? You know what I mean? It's like, what's going on here? But I keep going off piece. And what I want to say is that you can stand out now by creating your own visual identity. If it means that you like making things out of plastic, and your art and your essence and what it is you make out of plastic, and you have a story that you're doing this to show that we don't need to make more plastic. So I've just made a little concept, I've probably heard it before, on the spot. But if you can feel something and build, you're going to stand out. Like your platform, like my platform, do something that feels real, not based on what the noise is on social media platforms.
So find your individuality and let it shine.
And also the paradox is, but actually don't have any attachment to what it is. So if you hold on to something, right? I held on to being at Streeters, Art Partner, Art and Commerce, and I would do anything I could, apart from what I really believe I should have done. And I don't use shoulds very often. What I should have done was really look at myself, really look at what it is I want to show. Why do I do hair? Why do I like fashion? Why do I like the artists I like? Start to copy their work. Start to practice their work, because we've all repurposed other people's work. And then eventually find your own feeling within that. And then eventually you might get picked up. They might go, oh, he does that really well. Maybe the lead artist will invite you on the team. Maybe that's never needs to be your journey. But I was so fixated and so held on to what I thought was the way.
Yeah.
Traditionally has been the way. but there are alternatives.
Do you think those alternatives, though, are only more available now because we do have social media and there's a way to, I don't know, show yourself or platform yourself?
I think it's brilliant. This is the paradox again. It's brilliant that we can. My dad said before I came down here, he's nearly 80, and I said, I'm about to talk to a lady from Australia, and he's like, I remember when it would cost like £4 a minute to talk to, and you'd have to pre-make the call. And it's like, so technology and social media and these platforms are incredible.
They are.
So there's a lot of opportunity. However, you know, the good, the light, the dark, there's always a danger. And if you are fixated, so like Adam a year and a half ago would have done so much prep in the run up to this that I would have probably had a script, and I would have been such a control freak because I'd have been like, what if I swear? What if I say the wrong thing? What about my peers? And like right now I'm free, and like I've got autonomy in myself. But I think you've got to be careful on social media that you can, even the motivational things, because this last week I've been working on something, and you hear those motivational things like get up early. Even if you don't want to get out of bed, get out of bed. Make sure you're drinking the water. And you hear these things, and then you do these things, and then your body goes, yeah, I'm really fucking tired.
Yeah.
Like there's only so much your body and your brain can do. And also you've achieved quite a lot without those things. So I think there's a danger sometimes to like what you consume on social media can also, like I'm quite positive, I see a lot of different things on my algorithm, but there'll be like a lot at the minute, it's lots of people doing motivational things and sort of talking about ADHD, and I'm like, it's not something I've really talked about, but I've had ADHD. I was diagnosed in the 80s with ADHD before it was, you know, and but I've only started talking about it recently because it's in our kind of social media culture. What do you tell me a bit about you as well? I know you just tell me
about me.
Yeah,
so
go on.
I started as a hairdresser I'm older than you because I know how old you are. But I started hairdressing in 1997. I did my hairdressing apprenticeship in a place called Cairns in Far North Queensland. And I always had these dreams. I wanted to work in the movies. Like this was around the time that Brad Pitt was really big and Leonardo DiCaprio. I was like, I want to go and do their hair and makeup. And so I did my hairdressing apprenticeship. I had my own salon for a while, and then I moved over to UK, moved to London, hairdressed there, and worked up in Scotland briefly as well, and just hung out over in London for about 3 years. Loved it. And while I was there, I started doing makeup. I did a makeup course while I was there. And I still had all these dreams of working in film and TV, or actually I didn't really mind where I wanted to work. I had no idea of how to get there. Right. So fast forward, I've moved back to Australia, and I still wanted to work in film and TV or do photo shoots or something. So I went on to do many, many more makeup courses, started doing the testing thing like you, probably around the same time as you, probably like 2007. Like someone told me, oh, you just start testing with people and start doing photo shoots. And I did them, and I think I was very impatient. I was really impatient, and I think
What did you think you want? What did you think you want?
I thought that I should be doing all these photo shoots that I would see in magazines because I was a hairdresser, and I thought that I had the experience and I'd done the hard yards, but I'd never been on a set, so I didn't know that I didn't understand how everything worked. And it's probably taken me a long time to realize, well, not actually just when after you've been on set a lot, you realize, but it probably wasn't even that so much. It was also like taste levels. And I think taste levels was a big lesson for me in my journey of, freelancing and that, and just like what you post sort of says so much about your hair and makeup style and your taste, and that's a lot of the reason why people will book you, and also like connections, who so many things. Anyway, I did end up working in film and television. I ended up working on Neighbours for a few years. Turns out I don't necessarily want to work in film and TV because I'm not necessarily interested in getting up at 3 a.m. and being at work at 4, or, you know, doing night shoots. And I really take my hat off to people that do work in that environment, because people that work in film and TV, they do huge hours. I just did additional day work on a show that's here in Sydney, and these guys are doing night shoots, and they would start at 11 and they're finishing at 2 a.m., you know, and for 5 days a week. I'm
Yeah.
just like, I just couldn't do that. Not now anyway. And I suppose I started the podcast back in 2021, and I started it because of my struggles of, I don't know, finding connection, knowing what to do, just not knowing anything, not having anyone to help. So that's why I started the podcast. And I wanted to do everything. I wanted to work on fashion shows. Yeah, I wanted to experience it all. So I have done some Fashion Week stuff here in Sydney, and I thought maybe I could try and do it in Europe or in London, but we'll see if that happens. I think as you get older, you realize, I don't know, what lane you maybe like to be in, or maybe you just like comfort, right?
Or you can have it all with, I go back to my non-attachment. So right now, I ain't got a bloody clue what I've got. I went to a hairdresser event the other night, and I knew that they were going to ask me, well, what are you doing? And they'd say session stylist Adam Garland, and I'd be like, no, that's not right. And of course, I asked the AI, I'm like, what is my elevator pitch? And it will help me, and I'll chat with it, and I'll be like, no, we're not there yet, because I don't actually have an answer. I'm building community, and I'm building creative knowledge and sharing creative knowledge. And you see, I can't even get it out now, but what is really rewarding is to have that non-attachment, to have to be something. And the more I let go, the more I'm getting. That sounds so cheesy and cliche, but the more I would have never put a reel on my main wall of me talking about someone else's work. I'd been like, oh my God, if my peers see me put up that and I'm talking about that person, what are they going to... I don't even think now about what I post with regards to who is going to receive it, in a sense of how I thought about it in the past. The more I let go of that, the more I just put things up and then check in with myself and be like, the only thing I scatter now is like whether it's too much of industry stuff, too much of archive stuff. Well, that's actually a business decision. That's a choice. That's based on what I want to eventually get to. But do you get what I'm saying? It's like in the past, I'd only put up this picture because I thought it would attract that person. And then I've got some amazing editorial that I've never put up because I've been worried because it was attached to a Harper's Bazaar and not a Vogue, or it would be an L, and if you shoot L, you're looked at as this. And I don't know, letting go of all that attachment to what I thought I wanted. And it's very freeing. And I use this word essence a lot. And it's like, I can only describe it as this. It's like, I like to talk, I like to communicate, I like community, and I like sharing. And I'm a good hairdresser. I don't proclaim to have done any more or any less than anyone else, but I do have an interesting resume. But I've always had an ability to connect with people. I'm a bit Marmite. Some people can't stand me. That's fine, mate. You do you. But I have had a lot of success with building some raw talent, and have an influence in their career at some point. They're already talented people. They're already enough, and that's also something that inspires me. And I'm also launching education, but I feel like education can look all shiny and polished and beautiful and come at a premium price, and there's no disrespect to that. And if you have the ability to do that, but we're building session hair from the ground up right here. Right here. And one day, not so far off, I hope, that lovely filter that I've created as a backdrop with the beautiful daylight studio and the studio that I aspire to have, that will come. That will happen.
Yeah.
But at the minute, we're building from the ground up. And I feel like knowledge is knowledge and skills are skills. And I can stand here in front of a bare stone wall and I can give you the same or a different interpretation of information. It's up to you whether you choose to buy into that because you need the shiny thing or you need this. But my education is going to be costing less than a cup of coffee a month. No, we're going to be coming in at a really affordable price, which reflects the environment, but also reflects that we're in a cost of living crisis. There is so much education out there anyway, free education online. And like, I don't feel like anyone's really put the archive together with the actual physical skills, the fashion week, and the life. Being really honest about life and being like, yeah, look, live with a disability, 18 months sober, from a small town, we connect. And I want to connect with those people that maybe felt like an underdog. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but I still can't do that in an elevator pitch. I can't go, there is that in one line. And you know what? That's okay, because it will come.
Oh, I love your 20-liner. I don't think it needs to be one line. I think you're very engaging and very easy to listen to.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, very engaging. I'm excited for what your education, for what it's going to be. I know that, well, you had another episode. You have an episode on shit I told my hairdresser, which I listened to, which if you love this chat, guys, go and listen to that as well, because there's more stories from Adam over there. And the one thing I did love is that you said you just don't know what you're building. You don't know what will be yet, which I think I've always felt like with my podcast. And I think you even mentioned that you want to have a podcast.
I've realised, yes, I do, and I've realised that that's going to have the brakes put on it for a moment, because I'm really enjoying building the longer format content and doing. I mean, I spent a week polishing the first YouTube video long format that was like 6 minutes, and what I wanted to do was show the real breakdown of things. So whereas you maybe have learned how to tie a ponytail with elastic before, and you've got to concentrate on, you've created your ponytail. This is how I struggled, right? I used to get the ponytail, and then I'd have the ponytail immaculate, then I'd work my hands up, and then I'd start to focus on the tying, and then that bit of hair would come undone, and I'd have to go again up there. And before I know it, I've been there like an hour with a model, and they're like, what the fuck is going on? So using the real struggles that I found, I thought, what about if there was somewhere where you literally break it down? So in the video, I say, grab the hair wherever, because this is not about the finished product. This is literally about how you put the elastic into your fingers, how you drop it over, and then why you pull, release the tension, and go round, pull, release the tension, then go round. I've not seen anyone really explain that online. They just go, you tie the elastic, and it's like, no, the reason why you pull, come in, go round, do the same, is because as you do that, it gets tighter and tighter and tighter. Whereas if you just keep pulling, it will slide off. So my education is coming from, there's elements of it where it will come from that might be so basic for a lot of people. And if it's too basic for you, you're not my customer. But what will happen is we will grow and evolve. I've got so much to share. We will grow and evolve together.
Yeah.
And so the brakes go on the podcast. The pedal goes down with the longer format content.
Yeah.
And we see what happens. I wish there was more hours in a day. I'm sure lots of people have said that.
Yep, I had that happen today, actually. Especially when I think you're teaching yourself too a lot of technology stuff at the same time, like filming, lighting, editing. I believe you'd be doing all of that at once, which I can completely understand. So yeah, that can take, you're like, I should be able to like belt out 4 videos in a day.
Of course, yeah.
No.
I think I told you before we started. I spent 2 days trying to do something where all I needed to do was hit the refresh button, and it was like, when I hit the refresh button, I was like, mate, you've just sat here for 2 days. But you have to. If it was that easy, we would all be podcasters. We'd all be content. We'd all be sharers of education. And it's a very cliche thing, but you've got to stay in the arena, and you've got to believe that something will happen, and not be so fixated on the word goal. For me, is not a superpower word. In fact, the word goal can sometimes be detrimental to your longevity and your growth. I think it's important to have milestones, but if you're so fixed, unless you 100% know your essence is, and I go back to it, art partner, if your essence is that, you can do that.
Yeah.
but have this kind of flexibility on your guardrails.
Have you been doing your TikTok? Or are you on TikTok as well? But I found you on Instagram. How long have you been doing that for?
So I had the Instagram from like, I don't know, 2013, 2014.
Mhm.
And I got to a comfortable 9,000 followers, and then
Yeah.
it kind of just stopped. And then about May, June, July. So about 3 months ago, when I was like, okay, I completely let go of the attachment I had to being signed to an agency and the perfect, in inverted commas, wall that I'd kind of thought that I'd perceived that I'd created with my beautiful images. And I let that go. And that's taken a year and a half to really let go. And I
Okay.
let that go, and I started posting reels. And I'd done reels in the past, so I could articulate, but I started doing it daily. And then I was obsessively doing 2 or 3 a day. And all of that was brilliant. It's all been brilliant because I've made lots of little errors, but I've let go. So I've edited the hell out of videos to like get it to the right part. My good friend of mine will always go, "Oh, that video was a bit jumpy here." And I don't care. It's just going up. We're going to refine, we're going to polish. Because if you keep refining and you keep, like session hair education that's coming, I did a video and I said, right, this is kind of coming. And I thought, if we keep polishing and refining because we want it to look like X, Y, and Z, or I don't want to be in the studio in this environment, I want natural light. When will it ever happen? And so it's letting go of all those things. So when I let go of that with Instagram, my community just went, and people like yourself, and then like I've connected with so many countries. I think I've grown about 3,500 followers in 3 months, and I've connected with Brazil and icons in New York, Australia. I've been talking to lots of people, I mean, everywhere. And people like Julian Deese, people like Sandy Linter, Harry King. I've also learned so much in 3 months about industry history, why things happened, how things evolved. You know, I can sit here and say that when Julian did Linda Evangelista's hair, it was in 1988 and it was on a set with Peter Lindbergh. And it's like, when I did my journal this morning, I wrote down that little bit of knowledge it can have so many spikes off of it. So just knowing that Julian Deese cut Linda Evangelista's hair with Peter Lindbergh
into the redhead, the copper,
the little in the 80s, the one that Demi Moore had in Ghost, that kind of right. So even just knowing those 3 names, Julian Deese, Linda Evangelista, Peter Lindbergh, you could be researching for years. You can go off and have all these spikes, or what I call it. You could have everything Linda Evangelista ever did. Then you could have everything Peter Lindbergh did in black and white, everything he did in color, everything he did with male models, and that's when I get passionate like now. That's when you can start to explore history and archives and see what it is that you like. Then you bring that forward. And I believe that using a part of your referencing or part of that archive, that is what modern day art directors, clients, they love that nostalgia. So if you're able to, I'm not saying go and rip off those things. I'm saying understand the language and go on a bit of a deeper journey. Until I started doing this with the reels on Instagram, I haven't actually really gone into the research like I've done recently.
Okay.
So I knew who Linda Evangelista was, I knew Julian Deese, and I knew what kind of style he was. I've always loved Peter Lindbergh's work, but until you take a moment to really have a look at it, for me, I've been able to like pull out so much more information. And then I'm finding out what I like as well.
Yeah. Do you have any desire to get back on the tools besides in the like doing your education, or you're just sort of doing what you're doing now, and what will come is what will come? I'm
going to be really, really honest, because I feel like that's the way. Yeah, there's a little part of me that thinks that streeters thing will still happen, or Madonna's going to come on. And instead of being like, I need to shut that down completely, I'm like, okay, we'll leave that there. So I'm not chasing that. I think what I'm learning is that still is a little bit of passion for me, maybe.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not those people that I mentioned. Maybe is one of the performer people I worked with, or maybe it's a client. I'm just going to leave that space open and not be like I was around that, like, that's what I've got to get. And I'm going to enjoy working on the education platform and really showing what I like and taking people on that journey, as opposed to being like, I'm a master, this is what I do. I'm going to be like, I've got a lot of experience and I've got good taste in aesthetics, from my opinion, and I've got skills, but I'm also going to grow as I share with you, and you're going to feed back to me. Maybe you may say to me a model from Australia that I've never heard of, but she's got this amazing look, and all of a sudden Vanessa's inspired Adam, and I'm like now going off because you've come into the community and you've said something. And so I want to do it in that way. I want to be
okay.
Yeah.
No, I like that. When can we expect this community to be up and running, or is it up and running already?
So we've got obviously my Instagram, and the YouTube channel is where we'll be putting some videos just as like an example of what we do. And then we've already got Session Hair live. So if you want to go to sessionhair.com, at the moment, the homepage is about being a mentee. So I offer a mentoring course. We do 6 sessions, and that's for anyone in the creative industry. Currently, I've got makeup artists, hair and makeup artist, and a hairstylist, all abroad at the moment as well, which is amazing. And there are 6 sessions, so that's currently what's happening on Session Hair. But if you sign up to that, you get a free one-to-one consultation with me, which is we can just have a chat. There's no obligation to sign up to the mentoring, but you'll go into the database so that you'll be the first to hear about this education platform. But I haven't done anything with regards to marketing or anything. I've put a couple of posts up on social media, and I just want to keep building. Build is the word that's coming up in my journal at the moment. Build, and I'm like, okay, then building.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you all about things like, do you know what platform you're going to use to pop it onto? But maybe I'll talk to you about that when we get off the podcast, just because I'm interested in those things.
Okay, yeah.
So have you put anything up on YouTube yet?
Yeah, my first video went live. That was the Labour of Love, which took a week to learn how to use CapCut on the desktop, to go back and watch a lot of YouTube videos about people telling you how to do things.
A bit of research,
and I learned a lot. And I did a video or shared something where I learned how to use a program called Capture One, which is what photographers use to shoot into. And I've always looked at the monitor and thought, I will never be able to use that. And a year ago, I'm actually studying a degree in media and film and photography. I start in September. So
wow,
I've kind of gone backwards. I've done all the life experience, and now I'm going to go and get a degree. I thought, yeah, let's get a degree at 43 years old. First one in my family. So, but going into the level 1 and level 2 and level 3 photography, I thought I'm going to learn Capture One. So I learned Capture One. I'm not a digitech, but I can hold my own. And that process took a month of like, I will sit there till I just can't even see at the computer. Now, all that happened a year or so ago. And then learning how to use CapCut on the desktop, I got that same feeling, and I'm like, because I really I've got to stop saying this. I didn't enjoy technology. I'm learning to have a better relationship with technology. And basically, in a nutshell, everything that all that energy and all that learning and all that I'd done with Capture One made doing CapCut. I mean, I had the video done within 3 days. Mm-hmm. And it took about 12 hours to edit, do that thing. And all the time you're doing that, you're thinking, is this always going to take 12 hours? How am I going to put out video? And of course it's not. Not. But the YouTube video is up there. It's just there as a little taster to show you and to help me also check with the audience and throw up this very, very basic video of when I say basic, it's just real fundamentals of tying a piece of elastic. Mm-hmm. And my dad watched it, and my dad was like, I'm not a hairdresser. I don't know why. That's my dad's voice.
I love it.
My dad was like, I'm not a hairdresser, and I never would have thought that there was so much thought that went into the placement, the hand position. He's like, and I said to Dad, Dad, that's just literally putting this elastic in your hand and wrapping it. This is this is right at the beginning. And so it's interesting to maybe connect with, hopefully, like someone who's got no idea, and them to be able to tie a piece of elastic. If I can achieve that, that would be brilliant. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually quite difficult to do the elastic when you don't know how, right? Because there's so much going on, as you said before, and like tension and holding all the hair, and yeah, it's quite a tricky thing to do alone. I'm definitely going to be watching the video. But just
Brilliant.
to go back to your, is it mentorship?
Mentorship?
Mentee. So it's 6 sessions, yes?
Yes.
6 individual sessions or in a group?
All one-to-one. Maybe eventually we'll, once the community grows again, leave that space open. We could end up having group seminars, but at the minute it's very much one-to-one. It's very much about, so we do the initial, I say it's 30 minutes, but it always ends up being like an hour and a half, and that's no problem. And that's completely complimentary.
Yeah.
And we talk. The first thing, I'm going to let you all know what you'll get if you do. I was like, why are we here? And I'm quite direct.
Yeah.
And you'll either like that or you won't with me. And I mean, I'm very kind and gentle, but I'm also like, money should be talked about really early on. Why do you want to work in the creative industry? Because I want to get that feeling. Great. What are we going to do to monetize that feeling? Well, I just love spending like money on Eurostar and accommodation and getting paid £100 a show because I just want to be backstage. Okay, how is that going to pay the bills? Okay. And then they go, but I really did love when I worked in film, I really got that feeling almost, and I got paid all the time and I was respected. And I'm like, okay, so why do you want to work in fashion? So it's taking people on that why journey.
Yeah.
And so far, the people that I've worked with, one person is right at the beginning, and I believe they're going to go and do Fashion Week. And, you know, I've got contacts that I share with people. I cannot guarantee anything. I'm not going to get you into Fashion Week. I'm not going to generate any income. Nothing is going to happen just because of me. It's about what you do. But I'm very good at finding a way.
But also, I guess, are you mentoring people through their approach of what they, you know, maybe write to a agent? Whereas, you know, you saying you emailed the agent, thought you were going to get the agent, and, you know, the way you approached it may not have been the best, which we've all done. So is that something you...
Absolutely. So
yeah,
that can be part of it. I mean, I also have a 2-session course which just does that. That's two one-off sessions, and we do it before and after. But that can be part of it. But with regards to the 6 sessions, that's it. Very much one of my mentees. Yeah, he's right at the beginning. But I said, I'm not going to waste your time now going over this unless you really want me to in this session. What I'll do is I'll send him a document which has got it all written out, and I'll say, go away and use this copy and paste template of how to connect with, in my opinion, how to connect with an agent, with a client. And do you understand that? So also with my mentorship, you've got access to me 24 hours on WhatsApp. I'll come back to you within 24 hours, but you can always message me. And our sessions are like an hour and a half to 2 hours. So it's not 6 1-hour sessions. It's 6 sessions of however long they need to be.
Okay.
And that gives us the time to sort of, for me to be able to say that, like, is this something you really need me to help you with? Or can I go, this is an area we need to work on, but what I really want to get out of you today is how do you store your archive? And they go, well, what's an archive? And I'm like, tell me who Lisa Eldridge is. And they go, who's Lisa Eldridge? And I'll say, you're telling me you want to be a makeup artist? Well, yeah, I love makeup. I was like, but you can't tell me who Lisa Eldridge is. And then we go on to that journey. So I feel like, but, you know, it can be all different. My next one, we're actually going to do a video call and do a tying the ponytail together so I can watch someone's arm. So it's very much tailored to what it is the creative needs. And that can run across makeup, styling, really anything. It's giving someone that encouragement as well, and seeing them for what they are. And, you know, it broke my heart when one of my mentees said to me, we chatted, and she got to a point and she said, but what is wrong with me? Well, you'll get me now. I was like, there is nothing wrong with any of us, and there is nothing wrong with you. And she just broke down, and it was the first time I guess someone had actually seen her, and she was trying so hard to get on this one particular team, and I know how brutal it is, and she just thought there was something wrong with her. And I saw her and I was like, there is nothing wrong with you, never was. And just then we sort of softened, and we were able to look at like how we feel that creative. She's a very creative person.
Yeah.
Holding on to anything with such a grip for me never worked. So holding on
Yeah.
to wanting to be on Guido's team, wanting to be at a top agency, wanting to work with Rihanna, wanting to do a cover of British Vogue. You know, I was holding on to something and maybe I thought I wanted, but if I really wanted that, I think I'd have found that within me. I'm much
Yeah.
happier here talking to you than being on set with Rihanna. And I mean that. I like genuinely feel that.
I think one of the reels that I put in our like to talk about, which we've not really touched on any of that, which is completely fine, was
I talk a lot, don't I? I'm sorry.
no, I love it. I love it. Was that you made it to Guido's team, but it didn't work out for you. And I think those sorts of things happen so much in the creative world, and no one really talks about it, right? So, are you happy to share your experience there?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, that team to me is the best team of hairdressers I've ever seen work. And I have had I've only been on that team a handful of times, so I'm not one of Guido's teams. And I have the utmost respect for every person on that team as an artist. They are what I call the military of hair, and they need to be to work at the level. Guido still does what I would consider the biggest campaigns, the biggest shows, probably the most shows, and is creating hair at that level. And that comes with a lot of pressure for him, and then it will come down through the main team. When I first got to go on that team, I just would not have been on the radar to be ready, and I thought I was. And yeah, it didn't work, and I wanted it even more. And fast forward, I got to go back on that team as a little bit more established Adam, and it didn't work. I mean, there was a situation which I've talked about, which someone jumped in front of the Eurostar. I was late to get to the show, and then I walked in, and like his main people, the main people next to him were like, and I just got back from a retreat in Sri Lanka, not a few days before, and I've been in this same place. And I just thought, I'd messaged the agent. I'd said, look, someone's jumped in front of the train. I'm stuck on the Eurostar. Do I come or do I just not come? And he said, come. And I never felt so uncomfortable in a space. And then I got released from everything else with him that season. And it's like, I understand what they potentially thought. They potentially thought I'd come late from another show, was trying to squeeze in other shows. Already my face doesn't. And it's like, I wouldn't sit here years later saying that someone jumped. I mean, I wouldn't lie about that kind of thing. And it's like, in any other profession, if you phoned your boss and you're like, mate, I'm stuck on the train, someone has jumped in front of the Eurostar and I'm just not going to get there. And it's not like I was a key player or anything like that, but I still wanted to be on that team, and I still kept knocking on the door. And I think a couple of years later, I got to go and experience that team again. And there was a guy on the team that just was dealing with his shit and projected it onto me, is what I can say. And I stood my ground and was like, no, you don't talk to me. I don't care where we are, who you're with, you just don't talk to me. I don't want to be here that much. I'm not going to kiss anyone's ass. I'm also not going to be rude. And I was equally happy to stand there holding bobby pins. I want to just be in the room with that team of people and watch them do hair is all I kind of wanted. And it didn't work, it didn't work. That person, it ended up happening in front of people, and I was just like, right, okay. And I kind of put that to bed. And I see so many people that not just, let's move away from maybe that, just using that team as an example, but just to get anything, to move from working with one celebrity to the other, to move from doing Vogues to L or L to this, so desperate to do those things and holding on so tight to a vision, or doing lots of editorial but not doing any paid work because they think that one day they'll get to work with X photographer who will take them on that journey. Maybe they will, but in the same time, I'm now going to go back in history, and I'm going to go back to what I said about all those makeup artists and hairstylists I see so desperate, but maybe doing the same level of editorial. What about if I'm going to call it Anna Takahashi Mustafa Yanaz did. There's an example. What if you really took a year out? What if you took a year out and you went to yourself, okay, I'm still going to do the right work and I'm still going to earn money, but I'm going to pick up my phone or a camera and I'm going to find my essence. I'm going to spend, instead of doing that editorial that I hope will get me noticed with that whatever, I'm actually going to go down a rabbit hole and find references or knowledge or be inspired, or go and take a day off. Just whatever you need to do to get out of that rabbit mentality of chasing something.
Yeah.
Yeah, no shade to anybody. I have love for all humanity now, and I used to be really pissed off with a lot of people. I used to blame other people, and I think really why I maybe rubbed someone up is because they could see me, and we were basically broken people, or they could actually see the brokenness in me. So I hold accountability for all of my part in any dramas. I'm not saying I'm to blame for everything either, but I'm just saying I can honestly. I can be able to say, look, it didn't work for me there. It didn't work for me there. That's as much on me as it potentially is on them.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think, like just so many things you say about, I know sometimes I think I've wanted some things so badly that it sort of pushes them away. And
what did you want so bad? What have you wanted so badly?
I mean, I don't even really know anymore. Like I can't even really think of them anymore, but just I don't know, just try so hard for something. And I think in the end, it, like when you do, it sort of just pushes it away. So now I'm just really open to whatever opportunity comes my way, right? I'm just doing the things that I like to do. And I feel that the universe will present me with more of the good stuff.
And it really does.
Yeah.
It really does.
And it makes things more pleasant, right? It just makes being, like
I get to go to work with my dad, I get to, at the minute, and it's taken a minute for us to do that because he does a little bit of his own work in the garage, and I'm super focused when I'm on, and I can become a bit of a gremlin, which I posted on my story yesterday. And I'm learning to work around that. I'm learning to use my ADHD hyperfocus and not be an asshole at the same time. But the reality is I get every day I come in here, I get to spend the day at work with my dad. What a fucking blessing that is.
So nice.
And instead of being on that rat race, every morning I can just he opens up the window and morning, what and he's like, you're talking to a lady in Australia. I'm doing dad voice again.
I love it.
I do. I didn't realize I'm doing it, but look at that. I've gone from working all around the world, doing all that, great.
Yeah.
But now I get to go to work with my dad.
Yeah, that's great. And you're creating this amazing education site, which I can't wait to see.
Thank you.
Have you got any kit favorites that you'd like to share, or any products or anything that you love?
So this is the gold standard. I love saying that in a minute. This is the gold standard. But Bedhead TG Queen for a Day is what Guido uses on everything, and many other session stylists use. So it is a thickening spray. It can be for wet looks. You can brush it out. It will give you volume. It is just the product. If you're going to start out in session hair or in makeup and you want to do anything, you can do everything with this. I've just started using products from a brand called Kona, and that's how you say it. I've checked. It's Keune, Kona. I love these products because they're all ethical. First of all, it's a family-run business. So it was started over 100 years ago by a pharmacist in Holland, and Jan Kona, he created the perm, or the solution for perm. He wasn't actually a hairdresser, he was a pharmacist. It's still a family-owned business today, and what I've been to a presentation and I felt that, and I've been associated with corporate brands throughout my career, but the history and the story. But then let's get to the products. The products are really bloody good. They give you the hold, or they give you the texture. They do everything they say they're meant to do. And so definitely try. Do you have this in Australia, the Kona?
Yeah. I say Kune, but
I used to. It's Kona.
So it's Kona. So what's that one? Is that thick?
It's a thickening spray, which I'm going to be honest, I haven't used yet. But what I do, I use every day on my hair, which I don't have here. But I use the Get a Grip, which is a really great texturizer.
Okay.
And it you don't need to use a lot. I mean, you can go for it, but you don't need to use a lot. That's a great texturizing spray. But my favorite product at the moment, which unfortunately I don't have here to hand, is the Seafoam. So it's like a lightweight mousse. So it allows me to have these sort of curls. I will twist my hair in the morning, and then as it dries, and my hair texture would go really fluffy without any product. So don't look at this. Is gel that I put on just specially for coming here today. But if I didn't have any product, any of the seafoam in my hair now, like it wouldn't hold that shape. It would just go frizzy. I haven't had my hair cut for nearly a year and a half, so it's desperately in need of a cut. But considering that, with the seafoam, I basically will twist. Yeah, that's stuck now.
Okay, love that.
And then I'll
So,
end up with a
oh
ringlet.
yeah,
Look at the shine as well.
it is shiny.
And that dried naturally. That didn't dry with any heat. So once it's dry, then I will just loosen it up, or get a
So
few
it's
different.
called sea foam. Does it have any like sea salt properties, or is it more of a mousse or a combo of the
It's
two?
like a combination of a mousse and a foam. It's very light, so it's like fluid when you pump it into your hand. It's not, it's not like a mousse that sort of it's like a very lightweight, but it has got that grip or that feeling to it. But it doesn't make your hair feel like it's had sea salt spray in it. Is it interesting? Yeah, it's definitely worth looking at. And since I used to have a shaved head because I'm sort of receding here, so I used to zip it all off. And I'm just going to grow my hair. And then I've been able to try products on my hair, which I haven't really done for years. So that is a great product. Obviously, Sam McKnight. Love the products from Sam McKnight. They smell fantastic.
Yeah.
But
Any standouts there that you love?
Well, definitely I use his, what do they call it? Modern hairspray. So that's great because you can keep working the spray. First of all, I could wear all of his products as a fragrance. They're amazing, but it's a multitask. So you can create with this. I could put this in now, and it's not gonna. It can get a little bit wet, but it's not going to get sticky. You can say I'm going to put my fingers straight through, but it will just keep adding a little bit of hold, a little bit of shine. But it's like a universal hairspray. I think because I've been chatting to a guy called Harry King. He was a hairdresser in the, I want to say 60s, 70s, and 80s, all the way through. And he's worked with everybody, all the greats. And he's 82 now. I hope he doesn't mind me saying that. And he has been showing a lot of his work on his social media. It's Harry King. And he did hair in minutes. So all the pictures you see, and we chat almost daily at the moment because I'm just so grateful to communicating with this icon. And again, that's the benefit of where I've gone with my social media now. I'm actually getting to communicate with industry icons. And he did everything with 2 or 3 products, 2 or 3 bob and a hair, or maybe not even a hairdryer at times. And he's got an incredible archive of work. So since I've been talking to him, I've been thinking like, actually, let's just like, maybe would it be daring to go to work with just like 3 things? Could I just turn up? I
love that.
And then create, and why not?
Yeah.
But like, if you're going to start in session, this is what the gold standard, the one.
Queen for a day, yes.
And the other thing, I don't know if they ship to Australia, but so Session Kit, I don't know if you're familiar with sessionkit.co.uk.
Yeah, I've heard of Session Kit. Yeah.
So this elastic, which I'm nearly out of, so I need to order some. This is what I would call, again, the gold standard, the industry level. Session Kit has done their research, and this is the correct, or as close to the correct elastic, which you should start learning with, because not all elastic has the same tension. There's like so much science in elastic.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've got reels of it up there that have been there for years because they just don't have the same tension, the same quality of the material on the outside. They don't. Well, yeah, like I said, the tension, the pullback, because it's when you pull out, you want it to kind of squeeze everything together. So go over to sessionkit.co.uk. It's about £40, I think, plus whatever the shipping is. But it will last you, if you're doing your own things, it will last you a long time. And that way, when you get backstage, you know that you've worked with the gold standard. I've got to stop using. I'm sick of saying that word. The industry standard.
I love it. I love it. Now, I've loved chatting with you. Is there anything else that you would like to add, advice, talk about?
I could stay all day. So let's try and wrap that one up. I think be ambitious and don't be afraid. Have goals and then smash them apart, because goals can sometimes be a cage. The only cage you have is yourself. These are all like things that I've worked on. So the only critique is you. Nobody that you think gives a fuck about you gives a fuck about you. Like, the only person that can do that is you. And the people that you are worried about, they're not thinking about you. So why are you thinking about them? Why
Yeah.
are you worried about posting that picture? Why are you worried about putting that extra bit of backcombing in and making the hair that bit bigger? Because you're thinking, that person didn't do. No, stop it. You do you, boo, because then you're going to be free.
Yeah.
I think the industry is going to change dramatically over the next 5 to 10 years, but that does not mean it's over. That does not mean there won't be opportunities. I think the people that will have longevity in the careers they always have are the people that pivot. And people go, but what do you keep saying that for? I'm like, well, I'm not saying everyone goes and does celebrity or brides, although I think there'll be an influx of artists going from thinking they're doing fashion, going to celebrity or going to film and TV. So if you've had that thinking, do it now. Start that journey now. Build a visual archive and understand what it is you like. What is your essence? What do you feel? What are you connected to when you see an image? As much as what you like, as much as what you don't like, so it can help navigate that journey. And be fearless to connect with people, right? Like, I've always been able to just I've DM'd Anna Wintour, right? Or I've DM'd Rihanna. I'll have no fucking shame, right?
Yeah.
Communicate and DM people, email people, get on with it. Because you're going, this is really, you're going to die soon. I mean, that's a horrible way to sign off, but that's the reality. No, if you think about the existence of, we're going to get really deep, think of the universe and think about how insignificant you are and how short your time is here, right? It's going to be over soon. Live your best fucking life, day in, day out.
Shoot your shot.
And be kind.
And be kind. Yeah, I can tell you're very kind. So thank you so much, Adam. I have loved chatting. And I can't wait to see what's next on your Instagram page. I just love your reels. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for providing a platform for the creatives to explore. And I think you're doing amazing things. And one day, we talked about this before, I think we'll do this in person.
We will.
We dream big. And
yeah, we will. I'll be back in London maybe next year.
Brilliant. Well, let's do it.
Let's do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.